there has to be that level of urgency today. Today should be a whopping day. You should probably write as much business today as you have collectively in the last few weeks, all in one day. Well, that brings me to start our conversation off with some of the trials and tribulations, shall we call, of Florida Blue. I want to really talk first off to billing. And I really need everybody to pay attention to this, and only because there's a lot of moving pieces going on. We have to make sure that things are done correctly. And, of course, Florida Blue and I had a meeting just the other day regarding and surrounding this. There are about 25, 30 people on this call. We brought some things to their attention that we just have to make sure that we're careful about, and we have the appropriate talking points and how we're going to deal with this with our clients. So let's start off first with probably the easiest one. There were a lot of incorrect bills that were sent out. Apparently, there was a glitch in the system. That glitch in the system caused about 70,000 bills to be sent out to members that had incorrect premiums. Zero premiums, premiums that had nothing to do with what was going on, but mostly everybody got a bill with a zero on it. We don't want anybody to be alarmed. We just want you to sit back and tell them just wait. They regenerated the new bills on the 13th. They regenerated more last night. They sent out e-bills for all of the people who have chosen electronic billing. So all of that has been collectively put together, and they're going through the fix of that. But a lot of your customers are calling and saying, hey, why did I get this bill for zero? What is wrong with you people? Unfortunately, there was a glitch in the billing system, and this caused that problem. So how do you resolve it? Well, you just tell them to sit tight. It is the 15th of the month. We do not have time to be calling agent services, sitting on hold with agent services for upwards of 30, 40, or more minutes. So you just have to use your time wisely, understand the talking points, tell them just wait for the bill. When you get the bill, then we'll take care of it. And the reason that you can take care of it then rather than now is because of the you need the contract number. So again, instead of calling agent services, sitting on hold for 20 to 30 minutes in order to get the contract number, in order to make that first payment, which there is a link right on the screen here that you guys can all see. If you click on make that first payment, you need the contract number, and that is the acceptable contract number that the member wants. Now, why do I say that? I say that because in the passive and active renewal process, there is a possibility that your members may get two bills from Florida Blue, depending on when you finished the application. You have to remember the timing, and everything is all about the timing these days. So if for some reason you did not get to your active renewal before November 21st to the 25th, sometime right around Thanksgiving, easy way to remember it. If you did it after that, there is a possibility that your member would get a bill for the passive renewal that may not match your active renewal process if you did not collect a binder payment if necessary. And we have to be very careful if that happens, because if your member sends in the premium for the wrong policy, logs in to pay in their member account through the Blue Cross portal, or just in general, if you can imagine, pays for the wrong policy, there is an option where they could potentially have two policies. One that was effectuated as an active renewal. If you collected money, maybe you schedule that payment out. The other, the passive renewal. So you have to be very careful that your customer knows what they're purchasing. Make sure they understand the premium, and if they get a bill that doesn't match that premium, they should contact you so that way you can resolve the issue. What I am afraid of is that people are going to pay, go figure, because you did not collect a binder or you did not collect premium when it was applicable at the time of application. You couldn't, and they pay the wrong one, effectuating the wrong policy. Now, if the passive renewal, if they're currently a Blue Cross member and that passive renewal effectuates, that will kick out your other policy if there's no payment made. So let me give you an example. I'm talking to Mr. Matt. Mr. Matt and I take a policy, and he is currently on Blue Select. We have a conversation, and he decides he wants to save some money, so we drop down to a My Blue. That would require a binder payment. I am not able to collect the binder payment at time of application. So I say to Matt, hey, you're just going to get a bill. Matt gets his bill in the mail. The bill, however, is for the Blue Select policy. The premiums are close, but Mr. Matt didn't pay any attention to me when I was doing the sale, and he decides that he's going to send in the premium for that. Or he does nothing, and then at the end of the month, he gets charged because he was on APO for his passive renewal on Blue Select, and then we hit him for the My Blue policy as well. And then he ends up with two policies, and we have to go through a termination process. This is where things can get sticky. So, you know, I know today is the 15th. I know that we're going to keep on pushing through this, but these are some things that, you know, we talked about, we experienced last year. I don't think they're going to be as rampant as this year as they were last year, but there is still the possibility of these things, these double bills, these people getting the wrong policy. And you have to understand how to manage that when you're talking to these people. You know, it's very important because it's confusing. Now, the last thing in the world I want anybody to do is advise their customer to call Blue Cross and make their payment unless they have the bill. Because if I call Blue Cross, the way that the systems are set up, they are not going to see that member in all situations. And the last thing in the world you want your customer to do is call Blue Cross, say, hey, how you doing? I'm calling to pay my bill. They say, I'm sorry, we don't have you in the system. What are you talking about? I did an application in November. So you just have to be careful. If they haven't paid and they need to pay, you want to make sure your guidance is just wait for the bill. We will be communicating with these members. We're working with leadership now to get lists of members that we could be, that will have their contract numbers. We're talking with them about them delivering on what they originally said, where they were going to have all the contract numbers in search accounts, but none of that is going to happen today. It's probably not going to happen tomorrow either. So you have to have the appropriate talking points with what's going on with this billing. And I think that if you have a good relationship with your customer, you communicate with them clearly about this process, then you should not have as much of an issue. So what happens if I had enrolled a member and then that member had done a My Blue, for example? You collected a binder payment for that, and you've either scheduled that binder payment for a future date. They call you and say, hey, you know what, I don't want that My Blue. I want to go back to Blue Options, or I want to go back to Blue Select. So what do you do? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to take the application, obviously, but you have to be conscious, again, of the billing, because a binder premium will be necessary in order to effectuate the other policy. So there's two situations that are at hand here. So let's talk about them collectively. The first situation is I scheduled the binder payment. So if I have that binder payment scheduled in the future, and I know what my contract number is, then I'm actually able to log into the View Bill screen and cancel that payment. Another way for you to cancel that scheduled payment is to call Blue Cross and have them cancel that scheduled binder payment. However, please be advised, if you are doing the scheduled cancellation, then you want to make sure if you call agent services or if your member contacts Blue Cross about that, they get a reference number, because I don't have an air of 100% confidence that upon them telling you they've terminated that payment, it will be terminated. If I have not taken that payment, I've just, you know, if I've got it out there and the money is actually, I have actually taken the payment and the money has been received by Blue Cross, there is a refund process that Blue Cross is going through, but you must manage the expectations of your client that you're probably looking at a 30 to 45-day turnaround on that refund. Now what will happen is you'll process the new application, it'll come in, that will terminate the other policy, because on the marketplace, when you bring it back into Blue, that comes through as a switcher. Now with that switching of that policy, that should automatically complete the refund and get that moving along. It wouldn't hurt if you have time, which you don't, to have yourself, one of your team members, or the member call and make sure that they request that refund to help expedite it. But due to the sheer volume of things that are going on right now, I wouldn't really think that that's going to be a huge thing. I don't think it's going to be something that you can solve. It's not like they're going to get their money back in the next week or two, just to be honest. So if someone's going to have a hard time paying for the next policy, there could be an issue there as well. So those are the big ones when it comes to the billing. Now, we've got zero bills coming out. Tell your people just to wait. I bought a policy. I need to switch. What do I do? How do I get my money back? We've covered those areas. You know, those are the big things. There's some other things that are going on that comes with IST, but let me just pause for a moment on the billing side of things to see if there are some other questions that we want to address as a group, and that way we can make sure that this is good to go. If an agent is not able to pay for their insurance before 1/1, do they still have a grace period to pay? No. If it is a binder, it has to be made by 1/1/17. If they do an extension, we don't want to urge people for an extension. If they need to pay by 1/1. If you've been with us for the last 2 years, we've had 2 situations in the last 2 years where there was extension for those binder payments to be made. So there probably will be some flexibility. I would not tell anybody that there's flexibility on that at all. If a member did a paper application on 11/22 with a binder check and the system is still not showing up in Florida Blue system, what do you expect? I suggest never doing a paper application. There are very, very few situations that you need to have a paper application, and I wouldn't do any of them. You're better off in those situations for a paper application. Avoid that. Go to the marketplace with no questions. So paper application, unless it's for Medicare, is not advisable whatsoever. If someone moves from Blue Options to Blue Select, should you collect a binder? Yes, you should. Anytime you're changing plan families, aka networks, you need to be collecting a binder. That information was clearly defined in the information we sent out to everyone on the cheat sheets. So I would make sure you're keeping that ahead and keeping that in mind. Have it on your desk. Make sure you're referencing it. I even have to reference it almost on a daily basis because my hard drive is full in my head, and heaven only knows what else is going on up there. So when you're looking at that, be mindful, guys, because if you process the payment incorrectly, you could be causing this person to have a double bill. And that's not Blue Cross's fault then. That's your fault. So you've got to take a little responsibility of understanding when money needs to be collected and when it doesn't. I have a pending submission from yesterday. We'll get to that. When are the auto payments taken during the month? Those auto payments are taken on the 1st. Okay, between the 1st and the 3rd, depending on when the 1st and the 3rd fall in the calendar of the month, depending on the bank, but they cannot adjust that date either. It's always the first couple days of the month. Only the initial payment, only initial binder payment is able to be scheduled for a different date. Is the billing department in as bad shape as it appears? It's a really good question, Chuck. Probably one of the best questions I've heard in a long time. You know, my one side of me says, yeah, it's a friggin' disaster. The other side of me says, I think that in the grand scheme of things, for the number of payments and the number of things that are going on, they're doing a halfway decent job. So let's talk to that for a minute, because I'm sure you're all feeling that same thing. So in my conversation with leadership, they were telling me how wonderful it is, how everything is so friggin' wonderful, you know, patting themselves on the back, saying, we've collected 55,000 premium payments, we've done this, great. What they don't understand, or what maybe I am trying to push to get them to really understand, is if you process 50,000 payments, how many of those payments that you processed failed? How many of those payments did you have a difficulty with? I don't care. All the ones that went through, that's great. That's fine. That's dandy. That's what's supposed to happen. But I can tell you clearly, if I try to run 50,000 credit cards, I can assume that I'm going to have 10% of those credit cards that are not going to work. It could be an information mishap. It could be the person not having enough funds in their account, insufficient funds, any number of things. I'd give that about a 10%. So that means that there are 5,000 people sitting out there who may not be getting the appropriate communication. They think that their payment went through, they didn't have money in their account, and we have no notification. They're not telling us. They're not sharing that information. So I stood on the top of my desk, pounded my feet like a little child, and said, you must provide that information. Now, they're working through it to get us those failed things. Hopefully they're going to get them for everyone so we can share that with you. I don't know what the timeline is on that, but I did stress the level of importance to that. I think also playing into what it seems is that the billing department is in such bad shape is there's a lot of new people. And that's not an excuse, and I'm surely not defending that because we knew when open enrollment was coming. We all have a friggin' calendar and a calculator, and if you didn't understand that they were going to enroll and we were going to enroll all of these people, how were we not ready for this onslaught? So that being said, I have a lot of, well, I got a lot of things to say, but not for this venue today. I think it's going to be okay. There's just going to be some hurdles, and you've got to remember, as well as I do, when that phone rings, we are on the front line. We're hearing that woman calling and crying and saying, I can't fill my medications. What's going on? Why are there these problems? To add to those problems, Chuck, and why you're saying it appears that as bad as it is there were probably about 45 or 50,000 people that were moved off of paper billing. Now, there's a document that was sent out. I believe Giggy sent it out to everyone, and this document was really explaining a lot of the things that are going on and making sure that you understand some ways to deal with some of the hurdles that are going on and just what the carrier is doing on our behalf. So I don't know if Gig sent it out like that or not, but I'm going to pull it up here so that way you guys can all see it. It's definitely something that you want to make sure. Oh, hold on. See if this works for me today. You just want to make sure. Well, oh, there it goes. It's called an issue log. It's an agent service bulletin. This agent service bulletin is out there for everybody. I would make sure that you're talking to these points and you're taking a look at this. Paper bills are going out, Ellen, so I don't know why you're saying they're not. They just started sending the paper bills out, as I said earlier in the call, the last 2 days. But this document here talks a little bit about some of the problems that are going on and what needs to be reported. The big one that we're feeling the most is people that have gotten terminated because they haven't paid their bills in the last 2 or 3 months. So if I haven't paid my bill in the last 2 months, then my policy is probably canceled, especially if I'm off market. I know a lot of us deal in off market on this call. Well, those people have been terminated. And now they may not have gotten a paper bill because they switched them to electronic billing when they transferred from HPS to Blue Cross. Some people lost their APO. We knew that. They lost their APO when they moved from HPS to Blue Cross billing. And we were told, and we told everybody to talk to every one of your clients and make sure you switch them back to APO or understand that they are going to be on monthly billing. Well, those people have now since been terminated. So what they have to do is they can call, and they are going through a reinstatement process. And that reinstatement process is working pretty good. You may have to ask for a supervisor, but the member can call and tell the customer they haven't gotten their bill, and they can be reinstated. They must be mindful that they're going to have to pay back the premiums that they have from the last 2 months. So in some cases, those people may or may not want to make that decision. If you take it one step further, if I call Blue Cross and say, hey, and we had a customer did this. It's a good example. This is where they won't reinstate it. The customer called Blue Cross and said, I haven't paid my bill in the last 2 months. I didn't have the money. I lost my job. Okay, I'd like to get reinstated. No. Well, did you get a bill? Yeah, I got my bill every month. I just couldn't pay it. I want to get reinstated. No. But if that customer called and said, I haven't gotten my bill in the last 2 months, I want to pay, I need this coverage, I need you to fix it, then they will resolve the problem, and they are going through an automatic reinstatement process. This auto reinstatement process is upon request at this time. I've asked for them to do an auto reinstatement because my concern, and listen to me very closely, we talked about this last year, my concern is that a termination that is had before the 1/1 effective date, right? So if I get terminated back before, if I get terminated back to October or November, and I did not process the application correctly, in other words, I did not find the 2017 application that the marketplace has already created for me, there is a possibility that both the active renewal as well as the old policy will be terminated. Now, I've been assured by a couple of the big wigs over at Florida Blue that deal with CMS that as long as we built the 2017 policy off of the new plan that was already sitting there on the marketplace, that won't happen. But I'm telling everybody to keep your eyes out for it, because you have to watch that, because if I terminate the policy, if they did a passive renewal, right, they did nothing. My member talks to me, he did nothing. Now it's in January, all of a sudden he realizes he didn't pay October, November, and December because he's got a 90-day grace period, right? So he's still got his card. Everything seems okay. I'm fine. I haven't used the doctor. Everything's good. Well, now January he gets a termination notice. Hopefully, it's not past January 31st, and we'll be able to re-enroll him. However, he would have no coverage because he did nothing. If you did an active renewal, you should be okay. His other policy will get terminated. The only time there's going to be an issue is if we did not build it correctly, if we did not find the 2017 application and work off of that. So this document goes through some of the other issues that are at hand, kind of one of the best ways for you to deal with it. We'll make sure that we get this out to you guys if GIG hasn't sent it already. And really, you know, the newborns and some of that. The big one is the billing, the APO. You know, one of the other big things that is a problem is people that owe a December premium and owe a binder. Now, this is going to blow a few of you away, but again, listen closely. There are some people that have both a binder that is necessary and a December premium because they were on paper bill. The problem is that when we are trying to collect those payments, the system is not supporting it correctly. So they're going to need to send in a check, believe it or not, because in the member account, it's not going to apply the premium correctly because there are two bills for one member. So you're going to want to read through this document and make sure that you understand that clearly. But if you've got a customer that's saying, hey, they won't take my money, why is that? They are going to have to send in the check. Okay, so they're going to have to pay with that check and send that check in. It's going to be cumbersome. It is not good. And like they didn't realize that people were going to change their mind. Then, you know, it's just really important that you understand that. You also need to understand that if your customer is paying via the IVR system, that if they are trying to pay using a credit card or debit card that does not match the zip code on the member account on the policy itself, it will fail. They have to talk with someone, or they have to go to CVS, Navarro, or Dollar General to make that payment. Now remember, binder payments cannot be made at CVS, Navarro, or Dollar General. But if I call in Blue Cross and I want to make a payment, and my girlfriend is making that payment for me, and her credit card is to her address, it's not going to go through on the IVR. You're going to have to use a different payment methodology, including, but not limited to, the online payment system, logging into the member account on Florida Blue, and or going to CVS, Navarro, Dollar General locations. Okay? Also, when a binder payment fails, you have to make sure that they are not going to, they're going to have to use directly on the binder payment tool. Okay? They can't do it that way if they've had failed attempts. In that situation, they're going to have to call to do that, but they have to wait until the invoice is generated. That's why some people are having a problem. They call and they say, hey, I want to make my payment. And they say, no, we can't take your payment. Why can't we take your payment? Because your payment failed and the invoice hasn't been generated yet. So you have to wait until the invoice is generated in order to pay that premium. Okay? So I'm going to make sure that we get this out to you guys. I don't want to take too much more of your time. I really wanted to keep it to 30 minutes today because I know everybody's got so much stuff to do. But we'll make sure that you guys get this. You can read through it. It references some other agent service bulletins, so that way you can feel comfortable about it. And here's what you got to understand. Manage the expectations of your customers. There are close to 1 million people enrolling in Florida Blue. We are, the carrier in the state. So what's going to happen after today, right? So we can take applications until 3 a.m. Without a problem. Now, tomorrow, we'll get an email out to everybody. But remember, if someone has United Healthcare, someone has Coventry, someone has Humana, and they are in a county that policy is being eliminated, they have a loss of coverage, a future loss of coverage. And you can enroll them for a 1/1 effective date all the way up until the 31st. So this, where time is running out, time is running out. However, if you didn't, now you do, anybody you talk to, if they've got one of these other carriers and they're going to be auto-assigned, you can write them. You have to answer the question at the end of the application as a future loss, and they will get a 1/1/2017 effective date. So a beautiful thing. Now, I will tell you, for renewals, based on the fact that the marketplace wasn't working yesterday, I'm going to get some clear guidance from leadership. We may be able to continue to renew people for 1/1, but you're going to have to stand by on that because we have to make sure that the marketplace is not going to be asking for documentation of loss or future loss of coverage. And we will know that tomorrow. So tomorrow by noon, you guys will get an email from Mr. Falco that'll give you some additional guidance on that. But a lot of moving pieces. I have one more thing to cover, and then I'm going to try and get to all of these questions. There's a lot of them, and I apologize, but I'm trying to move and shake. So the last thing that I want everybody to be aware of is in the enrollment platform, you are seeing some enrollment statuses. And some of these enrollment statuses we've talked about the last couple of weeks, but I know that not everybody joins every call, and today we have a good crew on. So when we're looking at those enrollment statuses, if you see enrollment failed, I don't want you to be alarmed. What you have to understand is there is in progress with the G. That in progress means that it has not been submitted. There is enrollment in process, which means that the application is submitted, it is communicating back and forth, and we will not see the words enrollment complete until the money is in-house. If you see a bunch of applications in there that say in progress with a G, that means that those people, you have not submitted the application. Now, you might have started it, and then, oh, man, they want to do something else, go back out, I fix it, and you're going to have two there. One will say enrollment in process, and the other one will say in progress. You can just ignore the in progress, because if you have apps that you think are submitted and they are in that other status, it doesn't say enrollment, that you know that you've got to redo it or you've got a problem. You will keep your eyes on enrollments. The enrollments are going to go to enrollment complete when they are actually complete, when money is in-house. And you will not see enrollment complete until that takes place. Now, leadership at Florida Blue said that they were going to communicate us with failed. So the ones that say failed, you should not have to worry about. Don't keep your eyes on them. Don't look at them. And the area manager, as well as leadership at Florida Blue, will communicate to you if you have applications that are actually failed. They'll send it to you, send you the reason for it, and those you will have to redo. They will have to honor the effective date of 1/1, and again, we'll give more guidance on that as we know more in 24 hours. Because in 24 hours, we will know a lot more than we know now about what the marketplace is going to allow, especially when we see how good it works today, since it worked so friggin' fantastic yesterday. Okay, let's just go through some of these questions here. Lonnie, hopefully that I've finished that. I have pending submissions from yesterday, and I have in progress, and the payment has been cashed. You would need to resubmit that application if it says in progress, and make sure that you do not collect payment, because that way you make sure it's in there. The money has been cashed. That's great. You've checked the account. You've checked with the customer. Resubmit with no payment. As long as you do not change the network, you will be acceptable there. Be good. If a current off-marketplace changed networks from Blue Options to Blue Select, no payment collected. Correct. How does a client get a member number? Only policy number gives you app policy number. Donna, as we've covered, wait for the bill. The number will be on the bill, and they should just wait for it. I would not advise your member calling. Client enrolls in a plan changing from Coventry, pays a binder. A few days later, they receive an email to make their binder payment. From who, Linda? They're going to get that information from Coventry because they were passively enrolled into or auto-assigned into Coventry. They should just disregard it. Make sure that they ignore it. If they pay the Coventry, then they will have a Coventry and a Blue Cross plan, and that's not going to be a happy situation. If a client is enrolled on Florida Blue from last year, enrolled on automatic withdrawal, I did process an active renewal, the other policy will automatically cancel. Correct. Okay. I cannot take a deceased husband off a generated 2017. I have to delete and generate the application, create a new one. Do you know what this will affect the seamless transition? It may, because that woman or the family, unless that husband recently died or died in 2016, you should remove him off of the 16 application, terminate that policy from an active renewal, and then you can write a new one with just the wife. Depending on when the death happened is really going to make that difference, because it should have been announced earlier, unless, of course, it just happened. If a binder payment fails, will it still get a confirmation number? Yes, it may, because the money is actually not coming out. You will have a confirmation number. We will know later on. They'll get a paper bill if it fails, and they will have to pay that in order to effectuate the policy. Jane, hopefully I've covered the enrollment failed. I have an in process, and they have taken payment. Great. Reprocess the application and do not take payment, Lonnie. I have some that say completed submission, but yet agent services says the enrollment is complete. I have some that says completed submission, and agent services says the enrollment is completed. That's right. That's correct. Okay, that's right. What about pending submission? You need to check it. Lonnie, if you need help on that, give a call to Gigi. She can help you through it. I'm having trouble with dental. Can we talk about payments with the dental plans? Not today. Payments with dental plans, it's not for today. Everybody's got to go. I can't use this today. Enrollment started is good, Jeff. No problem. That means you're communicating with the marketplace back and forth. I did send out an email some time ago with all of the different statuses and what they mean. I'll make sure that we get another one of those out to everybody today. Really, if you're questioning it, if it's, you just have to make sure it's done. You have to make sure you've got an IST application. Really, you've got to make sure that on the bottom of the IST application, you see that there's a signature and a date on there. So that is very important. If you don't see that, you may have never hit the submit button. That's the key. Did you hit the submit button? Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that have not. George, we'll have to take it offline because I apologize, I don't understand. If they pay on December 31st where their policies start, yes, it will. They will not get the ID cards generated until 1/1. All right, that's it. Everybody's got a busy day ahead. I've already gone 10 minutes over, more than I wanted to. Everybody have a great day today. Remember, if it says enrollment failed, ignore it. Just move on right now. The enrollment fail is something that you don't have to worry about, and if there is failed applications, you will get communication from Florida Blue. With that being said, Hope everybody has a great friggin' day. It's going to be an amazing day today. It's going to be a bell-to-bell kind of day. Hopefully you've got your Red Bull. Hopefully you've got all kinds of things to keep you awake. 3 a.m. is the D-Day time, and then tomorrow we will keep on communicating with you. I really feel that some of you who may think that you haven't done enough, honestly, I think January is going to be busier than November, because in January you're going to have tens of thousands of people who are going to get these bills from AM Better. They're going to get bills from these auto-assigned companies that they've never heard of before, like Molina, and they're going to say, what's going on? I had Humana, because they've been living under a rock, and the next thing you know, opportunity is knocking, and we will have a better opportunity in January. And remember, all of these people have an SEP 60 days. So our open enrollment is actually going to run until February 28th. So we got time. Don't tell your customers that. We just got to know that we've got time to hit our numbers. Hope everybody has a great day. Enjoy. Bye-bye.